What it is, what it do, cyber world. It is your girl, the one and only Ash Said It. AshSaidIt.com, AshSaidIt.com. This is the Ash Said It Daily Podcast Show. I appreciate you guys for all of your love and support. 1,100 plus episodes, 500,000 streams worldwide. None of it would be possible without you guys, so I thank you so very much. I am super duper trooper excited because one of my very special people is on the line with me. I've got the one, the only Brian Moote. What's up, Moote?
Why, thank you. 1,100 episodes? You are a crazy person.
Dude, I don't sleep much.
I thought I was busy, and then you just said 1,100 episodes, and that is an amazing feat in itself, because people don't understand, once you start doing something and creating content and doing podcasts and things, the pressure to stay on a schedule and stay consistent it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've done 1,100 episodes.
Well,
wow,
thanks. Well, I can't fully say like they've been 1,100 consistent ones because honestly, when I started the show, I told somebody earlier, like I did it off of a dare. I had a friend of mine that was, like, hey, Ash, you need to do another podcast. And I was like, I'm over doing the promotional thing. I was promoting a little, a bunch of artists and stuff. And she's like, no, it can be whatever you want. I was like, well, what the hell does that even mean? What do you mean it can be whatever I want? And so I just started to do just kind of random shows, and it's grown tremendously over like the last 4 or 5 years now. So yeah, 1,100 episodes, dude. So, but we're not talking about me today. All right.
I know. That statistic was just too astronomical for me to gloss over in terms of having a conversation. I don't think people truly appreciate. That's a lot. If you want to binge listen to Ash Said It, you have your hands full.
I mean, it's that, and you get a little bit of everything. But, okay, so the focus is back on you, all right? I'm shining the limelight back on you. All right, so let our audience know, where are you from? Where do you represent?
I am from Whidbey Island, Washington. It's an island north of Seattle up near Canada, kind of. It's like in the Puget Sound, so it's in between Vancouver Island, Canada, and Seattle, Washington, in that little nook/giant harbor, which is Puget Sound. So I'm a Northwest kid. I know I lived in the South for a while in Atlanta. I've also lived in Boston, New York, Los Angeles. So I've kind of bounced all over the place, as you do when you are someone in show business. Mm-hmm. You just kind of go to where the work is at.
Exactly. Now, as a child, what was your dream career? What did you want to be?
I wanted to play in the NBA when I was a kid.
I can see that.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think it's kind of unfair because I grew up on an island where it's very rural, and so my graduating class had 80 kids in it, and my high school total had just under 400, and we were one of the bigger schools in the island, so my neighbors were 4 miles away from me. We didn't have cable. We literally just couldn't get cable. They didn't have cable television. And so I feel like growing up, the only in terms of things that I thought you could really be were, my mom was a nurse. We grew up with horses, so I knew it could be like an animal thing, like a veterinarian. Yeah. My dad was an attorney. And then I watched NBA basketball. So I really don't even know if it's fair to ask me what I want to be when I was a kid, because I only knew there were like 6 jobs. Gotcha.
So
I didn't even know. I didn't know you could be a comedian or a radio personality. I didn't know how any of that stuff worked. I didn't know how you even picked to do those things. So I just kind of decided. We had a basketball hoop in my backyard, and my Aunt Carrie played basketball at Georgetown University and was like a big star there, and she's 20 years older than me, so she's kind of my closest in terms of age relative, and because she played basketball, I was going to play basketball. And then I watched Michael Jordan, and I was like, that's the guy I'm going to be. And then I just didn't have I'm good at basketball, but I didn't have quite the athletic prowess to make the league, so.
Yeah, but your height is pretty substantial to where, how tall are you?
6'4".
Yeah, dude, you're like a Jolly Green Giant. Like, you have to literally bend down to hug people and greet folks.
It's wild because I played college basketball at a small school in California, and I played on the junior national team for the state of Washington. And I played sports my whole life, and I feel like I have a pretty tall family.
Yeah.
So it always felt like I didn't realize I was a big, oversized person until I got into entertainment, because you see yourself in photos, especially in radio.
Yeah.
I see myself in photos of people, and I look like a dad with 9 kids around. It's embarrassing. There are some pictures we take in the Bert Show studio with listeners where I am just far too oversized, because I'm not a subtle 6'4" either.
No.
Once you're next to me, I have a large frame too, so I have long arms, and I don't, from afar, I don't look tall because I have normal proportions, but I just look like I'm the coach of a small team every time I take a photo of people.
I love it. Okay, so how did you find yourself in the education realm? How did that come about?
Well, that was actually kind of interesting. So I didn't really know. I never took school super serious. I didn't really have any, educational aspirations. I just wanted to play basketball, and I went to the University of Laverne, and I was about to be a junior, and the second time I'd seen a counselor for education was when you have to declare a major, because I was undeclared for 2 years. And my counselor was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was like, I have no idea. And she goes, "Well, what do you like that you do here at Laverne?" I was like, I just took a psychology class. I like that. That was interesting. So, which is a terrible way to pick a major, because I didn't pick it based on a job. I picked it based on the last class that I enjoyed. So, so I got a psych degree, and then I never went to the student center. I never did any of that, or the career center. I didn't know how to write a resume. I didn't know how to do anything. So I just graduated, and I moved back to Seattle from California because I just didn't really know what to do. And I ended up getting a job initially in kind of an emergency situation. The Kent School District just south of Seattle needed somebody to work in these high-intensity, really hands-on high school autism classes with kids that were super high need in terms of, they were big kids that could be physical at times, and I'm a big dude, so they were like, put this kid in there. And so from then I just started working with kids with disabilities and working, in K through 5, developmental disabilities for a bit, in Seattle. And that's kind of how I decided to go get a master's in social work, because I just kept getting annoyed by the lack of resources for kids with disabilities in schools, because every school I worked at, like, they'd put in a new floor for the gym, or the kids would get new jerseys on every team every year, yet there's no wheelchair lift to get kids in and out of, they're off changing tables, and now you have 55-year-old women trying to lift a 185-pound, student off a changing table into a wheelchair, and it just made no sense to me. So I started doing stand-up around that time too. So I was at night, I was doing club shows, and then I decided, like 2 years into education working, that I didn't want to be a teacher. That wasn't really my path, and I didn't even really know you could be a professional comedian, because as far as I knew, you're only making like a couple $100 a week. And I come from an Irish Catholic family. I mean, my grandfather is first generation Irish immigrant whose parents were all railroad workers and stuff. So I wasn't really allowed to not go to graduate school. Does that make sense? Because I come from one of those families where everybody's expected to get an education and be a professional. So I decided to go to graduate school to get an MSW at Boston College. But really, I just wanted to go do stand-up in a bigger city that wasn't Seattle. So I did both. I went to Boston College and got a degree in legislative advocacy and development and fundraising and things. But I was averaging 400 stand-up shows a year when I was in Boston. Wow. Two or three a night. So I kind of, long answer short, I ended up in education because I didn't really know what else to do. I didn't know. I really didn't. And when I talk to kids about college, I'm like, yo, you're paying for it. And you might as well go find that career center and learn what the hell a resume is. Because when you get out of here, I spelled business wrong on my first resume. Yeah, like under skills, I said that I know I'm proficient with Excel. I don't know how to do Excel.
Oh.
I just added skills. I didn't even know what you put down there.
Oh, bless your heart. All right, so we're going to take a brief break, Brian. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this illustrious career of yours and how you ended up in the ATL.
Let's do it.
So, you guys, hang tight. We will be right back. Did you know that some foods can cause weight gain, body aches, and extreme fatigue? These are just some of the symptoms of food intolerance. Well, what is food intolerance? Food intolerance can occur when the body cannot properly digest certain foods. This can result in acid reflux, migraines, and so many other painful issues. How do you find out what foods are causing this irritation? It's easy. Pinner Test. With 500,000 satisfied clients worldwide, Pinner Test is the #1 way of identifying foods that may be causing discomfort. This simple at-home kit is easy to use with results usually within 2 weeks via email. It's that simple, all right? What are you waiting for? Go visit pinnertest.com and use my special promo code AshSaidIt for your discount today. Welcome back to the Ash Said It Daily podcast show. We are talking to one Brian Moote. Yes, okay, so Brian, we talked a little bit about your career, education, and kind of dipping over and getting your feet kind of wet in entertainment. Now, when the opportunity came for you to join the Bert Show, what attracted you to that opportunity?
Well, me getting into radio was kind of another one of those things where I've just always kind of loved radio.
Mm-hmm.
When I was touring as a comedian, living in Los Angeles, I would always hit up the cities I was going to first to ask about radio because I was just trying to sell tickets.
Yeah.
And I've always thought radio was fascinating. I didn't know how you get into it or anything. So I just kind of kept doing radio as much as I could in every city I was in. And the opportunity came up about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, where a friend of mine had got her own show but needed co-hosts. And so I was in town doing a comedy show, and she asked if I'd sit in because she was having trouble with chemistry with other people on the show. Ended up going really well for me, and they gave me a contract. It was a 2-year contract to do my own morning show with her and someone else. It was called Mornings with Jackie, Marco, and Moot. Mm-hmm. And from that, and I think that's where I really learned that your career in anything, but for me specifically radio, is what you make of it. Yeah. Like, I was not comfortable with being known as a comedian who did radio. Like, that bothered me.
Right.
So I didn't promote that I did comedy on the air. I just wanted to be respected as a radio person and a mind and someone who was going to bring original ideas to morning radio and not just keep reinventing the wheel, because radio tends to be something where people just kind of keep taking bits from each other and recycling things, and it's a wheel.
Yeah.
So I learned all the boards, the buttons. I mean, I'm in a radio studio right now, which we're laughing. I'm laughing at myself because I gave the number I gave you, as you know. I didn't even know actually you could call in, and then we found out that it did. It worked. So for me, like, I would do the morning show all week in Seattle. Then on Saturday mornings, I would come in and just run music and learn how to talk over ramps for like 18 seconds, which a ramp is the beginning part of a song. Mm-hmm. I'd take phone calls from people on their way to soccer games and stuff, just silly things like that. So I really tried hard in that 1 year that I was in Seattle to kind of learn everything and learn the ideas of radio and the science behind it. That show ended up getting fired. We got fired because the station wanted to change formats, which happens a lot.
Yeah.
And from there, I went over to news talk radio, and I ended up, because of my background in social work and special education and being a liberal, I got a job on a conservative talk station as their fill-in guy on every show. If someone was out, I'd fill in for them. And these are humongous talk shows, like one of the biggest stations in the country in terms of news talk.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, talking our own thoughts out. It wasn't a news show, it was news talk, so we got to just talk about whatever. And then I had my own weekend show there, so I was back and forth between LA and Seattle. And at that point in time, I also started syndicating a bit, which I do nationally still, called Tough Love with Siri. Mm-hmm. And I also have a version called Ask Alexa. And I think we're in 185 markets right now doing that, where basically I just script out questions from listeners and Siri or Alexa being kind of an a-hole about it, right? Like answering as this cold robot who just going to keep it real because she has no feelings because she's a robot.
Yeah.
So, and because of that segment, I got put in touch. It's kind of a wild week. I had a really wild week right when the Bert Show lost Jeff Dollar. It was a really wild week for me. I was in Toronto on a Monday interviewing for a radio show. Then I was in D.C., and as I was going up an escalator from the subway in D.C., I saw on Twitter that Jeff Dollar had quit the Bert Show, and I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" Because I've listened to the Bert Show, and I love that show, and it's a unique creation all its own in Top 40 radio, especially because Top 40 radio doesn't provide you the kind of real estate the Bert Show has earned, and continually does well in every market they're in, where they have personalities, and that's a testament to both Bert and his creation of knowing what good radio is, and a testament to the personalities that are on the show, bringing something that's compelling every single day to the audience. And you don't get 9 to 17-minute breaks in Top 40 morning radio. I mean, I'm building a brand new show right now in Los Angeles, and it's on a huge signal here, and we got to be in, out, funny the whole time. We can't be boring. We bring as much personality as we can from our lives, but we can't force it down the listeners' throats. And people who listen to the Bert Show expect to be entertained and learn about your life and things like that. It's a very unique creation. And I had already known that going in, so Bert and I started talking over. He hit me up on Twitter, of all things, and DM'd me for my phone number, and we were texting and we talked, and, you know, at the time I was working with some station politics in terms of, like, companies and Cumulus, and I was already interviewing for a show with Cumulus in D.C., and flew from D.C. to Atlanta. Bert and I had a couple meetings. I met the whole crew. Things just worked out. And it was the most valuable, to this point, the most valuable 2 years of my life in terms of learning about radio, learning about how you bring personal touch to radio and how you expose your life, you open it up. And, man, that can be a challenge. I mean, you're sitting there every day like, how do I bring more to this situation? How do I expose my life? And I had a very up and down personal life as it is. I mean, I moved to Atlanta, married to a local, well, I don't say local celebrity, but a celebrity in the UK who'd been on music shows, and she was a big personality in her own right. And our marriage didn't work out, and you have that now in a public forum, and you got to go your separate ways in the most cordial, but also you can't just hide from it. You know, you already let people into your life. And I think the growth that I had in terms of understanding that you don't just build this family in radio with the listeners for the good days, you also build it for the bad. You know, I lost a cousin to heroin while I was out there. You know, my dad was out of prison, and just, you learn that you can be honest about those things. And I think that's one of the things that, when it comes to Bert being a mentor of mine, I'm trying to turn the way that people look at morning radio in Los Angeles, because this market out here, that took over out here on 97.1 for Carson Daly, this market's not used to personal touch. I mean, you got Ryan Seacrest, who, man, we don't know what the hell that guy's doing. We don't even know what city he's in.
Exactly. We don't even know where the hell he's at.
No one knows where he's broadcasting from or what's going on or who he's dating. And I get it. He's a celebrity, and that's very interesting. And he's got to be very careful about what and who he talks about. But that's never been his thing. And Carson Daly was a lot of the same, where it was like, I'll give you just enough to make myself feel comfortable, but I'm not going to pull back the curtain in a traditional morning show way where, I mean, we air our flaws. I mean, that was one thing that I loved about the Bert Show, was like, we would have absolute train wrecks that were funny because we went into it with a level of honesty of, oh, this bit's going to be awful.
Yeah.
We're all gonna try to play Christmas songs on a slide whistle right now and see if you can guess what song it is. That, in any other, if you take yourself too serious, that bit is awful. But we didn't. We never did. Or Live Like a Woman Week, where I had to get a Brazilian wax. Like, things that you don't realize are going to resonate so much in terms of people's entertainment value and the range. One second we're talking about, I'm getting a Brazilian wax, the next second I'm talking about, you know, EpiPens and, or not EpiPens, but the pens for, I'm drawing a blank right now, but heroin overdose,
I don't know
Nioxin pens, or, you know, it's just, we go from serious to sad to mascara alert, you're going to cry, to just asinine ridiculousness in the same 10 minutes. So when I got the opportunity to go to Atlanta, it was a great experience and I loved every second of it. Had the timing not been in terms of my own personal life, with being from the West Coast, and it's hard to build a life and a career the complete opposite side of the country in which you need to end up on at some point in time in your life. And in full transparency, I think the Los Angeles opportunity, in my ideal world, would have come in 2 years, but you don't get to choose those situations. You just get to choose which opportunities you're going to give a shot and take advantage of. And, I knew when I was leaving the Bert Show, which is why, we were super honest about it, I didn't want to ambush listeners. I really valued every single person who listened every day and everyone in that studio because, it is a family, and I felt like, as hard as it was, I look back at it, and I'm really glad that we did it the way we did, where everyone knew weeks before that I was taking off.
Yeah.
And it was a bummer because it's almost like you almost wish you ripped it off like a Band-Aid, but then at the end of the day, I feel like I wouldn't get the same kind of love that I do still get from Atlanta when I go back there.
Yeah.
And I go back frequently. So to perform, I wouldn't have that if I had just been like, bye, you guys mean nothing.
Yeah. Now, and what I want to kind of interject in here too is I've been a listener of Q since Q started back in 98, 99. I was a junior in high school, and I have watched the evolution of the Bert Show. And I have to say that you added an accent to that show that no one else ever could have added. And it was so authentic. It was so relatable. Your empathy. It just, overall, it was, for me as a listener, as a fan of the show, it was very seamless for you to kind of enter that family. And I can say for myself, I value everything that you poured into that show because it was literally you had your heart on your sleeve, and there was very little left to as a listener, as an audience member, to imagine, because you pretty much you had your life as an open book. And it was sad to see you go, but at the same token, people that want to see you progress, they're going to be happy, they're going to be okay, they're going to be joyful with your transition. And I don't think I've ever, because I worked in radio for a bit as well, and it literally could be like, Friday, that radio station is gone, like B101 finished.
You never know. Bye.
You don't
Man,
know.
There's no closure, there's nothing.
Yeah, there's no. So I personally appreciated how you guys handled your leaving. Because like you said, it gave people a breath of understanding. It wasn't just, oh, well, he's not here anymore. He's gone. And then rumors start and all kind of crazy shit on social media. So I personally appreciate the way that you guys handled it. Couldn't have done it better.
I appreciate you saying all that. And I felt, from day one, I felt comfortable with everybody in there. And I think it's that environment, it's that room. That room is set up for people to succeed.
Yeah.
As long as you go in there with a fun attitude and a team kind of perspective. But also how I've always approached radio as someone who's not from radio. I'm from, jobs that are way more difficult. And I appreciate the opportunity just to goof around every morning, because that's not work to me. It's not work to me to entertain the people that have to go have real jobs every day.
Right.
And I think if there's one thing that, and I don't think necessarily, when I look back at the 2+ years I was on the Bert Show, I don't think it's necessarily me, but I think it could have been anybody. But I think what that person coming in after Jeff left showed, it opened the door for what is currently the Bert Show now and what it will continue to be, which it was everybody realizing that the environment is set up for people to succeed if you have the right people in the right spot.
This is
and
true.
You have people that are all supportive and all creative types and all want the best for everyone in that room. Because when I came into the show, there was this level, there was kind of this feeling of like, oh my God, I don't know if we're going to be okay. Like, one of the major players who helped start the whole thing has just left. Just left suddenly and with no explanation. And there was this level of like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to be able to pull it together or have the same success that we've had. And I think the coolest part about it was me coming in and the success continuing to grow. And not only grow, but grow larger than it's ever been. I think it just reassured to everybody in that room that, hey, as long as the people in this room want the best for everyone in this room and the people listening and are willing to really open their lives up and be authentic people, that show is going to be fine forever.
Yeah.
It's more of a function of the environment and the listening base that they've cultivated out there, where the listeners know radio and they want more than just, hey, here's a survey about the top 5 things that are gross about public bathrooms. Let's do it, They expect more. So I think that the current crew of the Bert Show, it wouldn't be possible without everybody realizing that the environment is set.
Right.
You just need to find the right players, and people can come and go. And it is a bummer, but also, you know what it does? It opens the door for entire new personalities. Like Mo Mitchell is a fantastic personality. Super funny. He's got so much to bring. He's got so many stories to tell. He's got so much to offer.
Yeah.
And then elevating Katie and Walter and Davi and all these people getting elevated to on-air positions. It just opens the door for more personality and more stories and more things. And I think I came in on that tail end of we're afraid we're not going to work. Now it's like, we know we're going to work. Right. It doesn't matter. As long as we all got each other's back, we're good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about this new transition. So you're in Cali, you're over there. And are you in Los Angeles?
Yep, I'm living in West Hollywood, right 2 blocks from Hollywood and Highland, just off Fountain and Sunset. I don't know if that's too specific.
Yeah.
But, back out here I do, back into the entertainment hustle, back into the machine.
So what are upcoming events? What's going on with you, this new station, this new environment?
Well, right now I'm doing the AMP Radio morning show. It's called The New Guys, and that was a deliberate decision we made because I had the option of branding my name on it, my name as well as my co-host name, Edgar. And we kind of felt like, people are going to call us the new guys anyway, for now. I mean, you can't take over for Carson Daly and expect anything but new guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And our thought was, we'll be the new guys when people start calling us things other than the new guys by our own names. And we're starting to see people really latching on to our name.
Yeah.
And so at some point down the road, we'll probably change that. But we felt to position ourselves as the underdogs, which we are in this town, let's own it. Yeah. Let's be the new guys. I don't think Brian's necessarily, or Moote is some big draw out here. I know it's not. So,
but it will
let's not act like we're big shots. We're not big shots. We're every day, unlike every other show in this town. We're not trying to act like we're bigger than the room. We are the room. We're the people that are here. So I do that every morning. I have my own show, the Brian Moote Show, with Brad Nolan, who's a friend of mine, who's a producer on the morning show. And that's more of a longer format Bert Show style segments with stories, and we do a little bit of topical stuff. And the goal for that show is to be more of a syndicatable show that's in the moment, but not necessarily like locked into a region. And so that's on podcast form right now on radio.com and slowly being pushed out to other radio signals that are in small towns. So you never know if I'll pop up somewhere that people are, but and then, I'm back to doing stand-up, 3-4 nights a week in the comedy clubs out here and trying to audition for television. I think my goal in the next year in my career is to really kind of, build a committed audience of radio listeners who want something different, and also do late-night television with stand-up. Like, I kind of, when I diverted into full-time radio in Atlanta from Los Angeles, I think one thing that was bothering me was that you're kind of off the radar now for television and, for doing spot on Conan or Fallon. So I'm back in the mix for those, I have the Burbank Comedy Festival coming up in August, and I'm on a bunch of industry showcases, and I'm trying to put together my 5 minutes of stand-up that I want to put on television and trying to get on TV again and I just want to be an entertainer. People ask me all the time, like, what is your ultimate goal? And I'm like, I don't know, man, make people laugh in whatever format it is. Yeah. And nowadays, it's kind of transcendental. No one's locked into one thing anymore.
That works. Last but certainly not least, what advice can you offer to any person that may be in between careers and they're kind of unsure about taking that leap?
The only thing I can ever say to people, and that's what I say to whether you're in show business or you're not, is you just cannot be afraid to fail. Because, and I think I've learned that from entertainment because I've failed a million times. But I think that we lose that because of ego. We have a tendency to obsess over people thinking we're a failure because something that we tried didn't work out. When we're kids, we never question whether or not something works because we're just trying it. We're just trying to have fun and do the best we can. And I think that fear of failing, if I would have had that in me, if I would have, been paranoid about leaving places or trying new things, I sadly wouldn't be close to where I am right now in my career. And I remind myself now, you got to be okay to push yourself, and you got to be, when you fail, it's not the end of the world. Laugh at it and move on. But you're only successful because you tried 1,000 times. I think we have this fallacy that everybody walks like you walk into the radio studio and your first day you're crushing it. No, you're brutal. You're going to make mistakes everywhere, and you get better and better. And the reason that you succeed is because people try, they don't do great, and they quit. So that's my advice to everyone is just push yourself, and you're gonna fail, but make it a learning experience and have fun doing it. Awesome. Because the only way you're really gonna fail is if you sit back in 10 years and you're like, I should have done that. What was I doing?
Go out there, gotta make it happen, gotta make it do it. Brian Moote, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate
you having me. I truly love Atlanta. It's one of my favorite towns in the world. I look at it like kind of my second hometown at this point. I still own a house there. I still love coming back out and telling jokes.
Yes,
and Atlanta is one of those places that keeps forcing me to write new material, which is good and bad. Because at City Winery a couple weeks ago, I was really stressed out because I did not want people to go to one of my shows for the second time and go, he did the same stuff. I knew exactly what he was doing. So, Atlanta, you keep me pushing myself in stand-up, and I can't preach about being afraid of failure without going on stage and going like, let's try this character of my mom walking into a spider web.
It was hysterical. You had the whole room just, like, literally my stomach was hurting. I was laughing so much. Your impersonation of your mom, like, I feel like I know her now. I don't know your mom.
My mom is a phenomenal person, and a lot of, like, the silly humor that I've gotten is because I think at this point now she just does stuff to try to make jokes for me. She'll just send me weird pictures of her taking a walk through the woods with her cat, like, off leash. Like, what are you doing? I just feel like she's daring me to write a joke about her and her free-range cat that she has running around.
You were saying, like, the cat's, like, walking like it's a dog. It's just walking along.
He's just chilling out. He's off leash, just kicking it.
Hysterical.
So, it's such a special thing to be able to come back out to Atlanta and do stand-up and, for a lot of the charities that I work with to help still raise a little bit of money here and there and awareness and things. Because Atlanta is a big city, small town, and it's kind of got that... I don't think it'll ever lose that vibe to it, no matter how big it gets. So.
No, definitely. Brian, let everyone know the best way to get in contact with you and to follow you on social media.
Hit me up at Moote Points on Twitter or Moote Comedy on everything else. I felt like I had to take a Twitter handle that made fun of the fact that Twitter to me sometimes just feels like an irrelevant nothing. Though it's becoming so important nowadays. Good Lord, it seems like that's where everybody's breaking political news or fake news.
I know.
That's for you to interpret.
Basically.
Or if you want to read the stories. But, and hit me up anytime. I love hearing from people. So until... I'll keep replying to everything until I get too famous. In that case, we all made it.
We all made it. Star shining. All right. We appreciate you, Brian. Thank you guys for supporting the movement, which is ashsaidit.com. Of course, you guys can check out ashsaidit.com right now for updated blog posts. And keep in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face and tell them, don't believe me. Just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for. We're doing this for
do something.
Do
dare
it.
Me to do
Knock
it
out. I'll holler at y'all later.